After what felt like hours of listening to Daisy state her love for Roman in a saintly voice, Iris was finally impatient. "Daisy," Iris's patience had nearly evaporated. "Why are you so shameless? Why did you return after you left?" "Roman asked me to come back. If he wants me, I will stay. He's just toying with you. He won't marry you. Stop daydreaming. It doesn't matter. I won't leave unless Roman personally tells me to." "Why are you so shameless?" Iris's words grew harsher. "Even if he wants to keep you as a pet, his family won't agree." "Do you want him to break with his family?" "Roman said he can handle it," Daisy replied calmly. She added, "I believe in him." "Fine. Tell me," Iris sighed. "How much money would it take for you to leave him?" "I don't want money. You really won't leave." "I'll leave only if Roman drives me away." "All right, let's see this then." Iris took out her phone. "After you see this, you can make your decision, okay?" Daisy responded, "It's my choice whether to look at it or not." Iris raised an eyebrow, taunting Daisy. "You are just afraid to look. I'm not afraid," Daisy said with determination, her voice louder than before. Iris displayed the photos on her phone. They were from the last time she and Roman had been together. Roman was unclothed and she lay in his arms, also unclothed. In the past, Daisy would have been uncomfortable and devastated seeing these images, but now her expression remained impassive. She looked at each photo without any visible reaction. Iris was taken aback. She stared at Daisy with wide eyes and couldn't believe what she was seeing. Daisy's reaction had caught her by surprise. She had always thought Daisy was weak and easy to push around, but now she realized that Daisy was hiding a strength and mental fortitude that she had underestimated. "Don't you have anything to say?" Iris inquired. Daisy had been studying the photos, but she suddenly raised her head. Her clear eyes bore into Iris, making her feel as if Daisy was seeing into the darkest corners of her soul. However, the feeling quickly passed. At this point, she couldn't afford to cause trouble. Originally, she intended to use these photos to pressure Roman into marrying her, but now it seemed she would have to use them differently. "I know about this," Daisy said. "Roman was drunk that night and nothing happened between you two." "What did Roman tell you?" Iris asked and let out a strained, harsh laugh. However, Daisy only felt pity for her. "I believe in him and will always believe in him. In fact, you're the one deceiving yourself. Men can't be trusted." Iris laughed again. "Daisy, let me give you a piece of advice. It's better to have faith in your own eyes than trust men. You're too naive and too easily deceived. Let me tell you." The door was forcefully pushed open, slamming into the wall. Roman entered with a stern expression, his face as dark as night. His icy gaze landed on Iris, and he spoke each word deliberately. "Leave immediately." "Roman." Iris was utterly flabbergasted. She couldn't believe that Roman was treating her this way, considering they had grown up together. Was their over 20-year relationship reduced to just those words? After Roman's demand, he couldn't help but scold Daisy. "Why did you let her in?" The girl, feeling small, replied in a hushed voice. "She said she wanted to talk to me." "When you've already suffered from Caroline, how could you do this? What if something happens?" "Are you without a brain?" Roman asked incredulously. "Iris won't do anything," Daisy began to explain, but was interrupted. "Are you her friend?" "How do you know she won't?" he demanded. Iris couldn't take the united front they presented any longer, so she pretended not to exist and shouted, "Roman, listen to me." "Shut up." Roman grabbed Daisy by the waist and left, saying, "I'll settle this with you later." Iris remained, seething with anger. Sarah stood to the side and calmly said, "Miss Iris, the boss has finished work. I need to lock the door now if you could please leave." Iris was nearly beside herself with frustration. She glared at Sarah, stamped her feet, and left. Sitting in the car, Roman continued scolding Daisy. "You said you weren't afraid of her. 10 of you couldn't defeat her." "I didn't fight with her," Daisy responded softly. "I reasoned with her." Reasoned? Roman found it amusing. If she could be reasonable, she wouldn't do this. He paused and asked, "What did you reason with her?" Daisy was momentarily at a loss for words. After reflecting on it, she had initially intended to reason with Iris, but Iris had been too aggressive, rendering all the prepared arguments useless. Daisy had stuck to one point. As long as Roman didn't expel her, she wouldn't leave. Regardless of what Iris said, she reiterated this point, and in the end, it had worked. Iris had become so enraged that she couldn't speak for a long time. Seeing Daisy's silence, Roman asked again, "Did she scream at you?" Daisy replied in a low voice, "No, she didn't." "Then what did she say?" Daisy paused for a moment and said, "She showed me a photo." Roman had no idea what she was talking about. "What photo?" "That day, when you were drunk and you were together," Daisy's voice grew softer as she spoke. Roman abruptly slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a halt. His expression was one of shock. She took pictures too? Roman's sudden stop led to the car behind him catching up, but the driver apparently recognized the luxury car in front and refrained from causing trouble, opting to express his frustration through the continuous honking of his horn. Daisy, sensing the disturbance, urged Roman, "Drive quickly, there's a traffic jam." Roman calmly maneuvered the car to the side of the road and came to a stop. He inquired, "How many photos did she take? What did she say?" Daisy looked at him and explained, "She asked me what I thought after seeing the photos." He pressed further. "How did you respond?" "I said, 'I believe in you, and I will always believe in you.'" Like a refreshing breeze, Roman's previously stern face instantly brightened. He turned his head to gaze deeply at Daisy. "That's wonderful. What you said is wonderful." Daisy was slightly embarrassed by his reaction and playfully pushed him, saying, "Come on, let's go." With a tender look in his eyes and a soft tone, Roman felt his heart warm. He pulled her into his arms, leaned down, and kissed her. Before Daisy could react, someone began knocking on the car window. Roman appeared to ignore it and continued to linger. Daisy was extremely embarrassed, even though the car's windows were tinted. Fearing prying eyes, she reached out her hand and gently squeezed Roman's waist. Roman didn't notice immediately and laughed, but eventually released her. He casually rolled down the car window and saw a traffic policeman standing outside, looking at him very seriously. "Please show me your driver's license." Roman remained silent, retrieved his driver's license, and handed it to the officer. The traffic policeman examined it carefully and then glanced at Daisy before softening his tone. "You can't stay here for too long. Please leave immediately." Roman accepted his driver's license, nodded, and proceeded to drive the car onto the main road. Seeing the traffic policeman in the rearview mirror walking away, Daisy couldn't help but complain. "See, you nearly got us into trouble." Roman replied, "When did you become so straightforward? A few days apart, and your temper seems to have improved. I like it." Upon returning home, Roman headed straight to the cloakroom to pack his luggage. Daisy inquired, "Are you going on a long trip?" "It's not just me, it's both of us," Roman replied as he packed his clothes into the suitcase. "You can bring whatever you want and lay it out on the bed. I'll take care of it." Daisy began to understand and felt excitement welling up, but she didn't want to get her hopes up. She asked tentatively, "Where are we going?" "Of course, it's the seaside, just like we agreed last time," Roman said. Daisy followed up with more questions. "How long will we stay?" "You can stay as long as you like," Roman assured her, hugging and kissing her. "If you enjoy it there, we won't have to go back." Daisy saw through his teasing and responded, "Liar." Roman played along, suggesting, "If you want, I can buy a seaside villa there and make it our annual vacation spot. How about that?" "Okay," Daisy agreed enthusiastically. However, she suddenly remembered something and frowned. There are still some clothes left at Kevin's place. I need to get them back. Roman wasn't thrilled when Kevin was mentioned, but he didn't show it openly. He never brought up the topic, intending to let it slide and not engage in any conflict so soon. He whispered, "Forget it. Those clothes aren't worth it. We can buy new ones." Daisy, feeling strongly about her clothes, hesitated and replied, "No, I want to get them back." Although Roman had reservations about her seeing Kevin again, he agreed because he didn't want to argue with her now. "All right, we'll go get them back, but not today. We're in a hurry, so we can deal with it later," he conceded. Seeing that he had no objection, Daisy happily prepared her gifts for the trip. Matt and Sarah arrived at this moment. Sarah handed the air ticket and a new SIM card to Roman and informed him, "Boss, the hotel is all set. It's at Red Maple Bay. They'll send someone to pick you up at the airport." Roman replied, "All right. Thank you for your hard work. If there's nothing urgent, don't call me," and only inform John of the new phone number. Sarah and Matt each grabbed a suitcase and headed downstairs. Daisy, though eager, had tried to contain her excitement. However, once they arrived at the airport, she couldn't help herself any longer. The airport was bustling with people, a lively and noisy place filled with electronic displays and bright lights, making it a fascinating new environment for her. Roman had only asked Matt to accompany them to the airport gate, so he was responsible for handling their luggage himself. He dragged one suitcase with him, and Daisy, carrying a backpack, followed closely, curious like a child on her first trip. Roman frequently looked back at her with tender and affectionate eyes. Coupled with her beauty, their interaction garnered envious and admiring glances from onlookers. As they stood in line to check their luggage, a group of foreigners chatted nearby. They were speaking in a language Daisy didn't understand, which didn't sound like English. Their voices were deep and magnetic, creating a pleasant sound. She didn't dare to stare, but she listened intently to their conversation. Roman whispered to Daisy, "They are speaking German." Daisy looked at him in surprise. "You know German?" "Of course," Roman replied with rare confidence. "Your husband understands 6 languages." Daisy blushed and tried to cover his mouth in embarrassment, but Roman kissed her palm. "It's too late to deny it now." Roman winked at her, grabbed her hand, and shook it, saying, "Look, the ring is on." Daisy retorted, "I didn't even say I was willing, and you put it on yourself." Roman raised his eyebrows, teasing, "Doesn't that count?" Daisy, now even more bashful, blushed and stammered, "Forget it." Roman found it amusing and leaned in to kiss her. Daisy resisted since there were foreigners nearby. However, as she turned her head away, she couldn't help but see a couple among the foreigners who were deeply in love, kissing so passionately and visibly, their breaths almost audible. This sight startled Daisy, and she let out a soft gasp before turning back. Roman, taking advantage of the situation, lightly touched her, causing her to gasp once more. Roman, finding her reactions entertaining, hugged her waist tightly and whispered in her ear, "Now that it's settled, how about calling me husband for everyone to hear?" Daisy hesitated but gently pushed him away. However, the more she pushed, the tighter he held her. "Call me husband or not?" Roman inched closer, his intentions clear. Daisy was a little flustered given the onlookers. In the end, her soft voice, barely louder than a whisper, conceded, "Yes, my dear husband." Roman beamed with delight, his expression unapologetic. He responded seriously, "Let's go, wife." Finally, he released her from the tight embrace. After getting on the plane, Roman asked Daisy to sit by the window and inquired with concern, "You don't get airsick, do you?" Daisy wasn't sure herself, so after a moment of thought, she responded, "I get carsick." Roman then pulled out a piece of chocolate from his backpack and offered it to her, saying, "Let's have something to eat. It might help." Daisy, not entirely understanding, simply followed Roman's advice. She was afraid of disappointing him or embarrassing herself in front of so many people, so she determinedly ate half a piece of chocolate. Upon finishing the chocolate, Roman handed her a bottle of chewing gum, mentioning that chewing 2 pieces would make her feel better during takeoff. Daisy accepted the gum and nervously leaned toward Roman, seeking comfort. Roman held her and teased, "Your husband is here. What are you afraid of?" Ignoring his playful teasing, Daisy tightly held his hand as the plane began to take off.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Enjoy your
The
flight.
roaring sound of the engines made her uneasy. She was now in the sky, flying higher than any bird. She wasn't exactly scared, but the nervousness was undeniable. Roman encouraged her, "Look out the window." As the plane ascended, the noise became much quieter than expected, and there were no sudden bumps. Daisy leaned into Roman's embrace, turned her head, and peered out the window. What she saw was breathtaking. The plane was still climbing, and the view outside was magnificent. She gazed at the myriad of lights below, numerous and densely packed, like stars from the Milky Way that had descended to Earth, competing for brilliance. It was an incredibly beautiful sight. Daisy eagerly gazed at the lights below until they gradually disappeared beneath the clouds. She took a deep breath, surprised to find that the sky wasn't as dark as she had imagined. She could even see the clouds slowly moving, with some momentarily covered by the passing planes. When the overhead light illuminated them, the clouds appeared gray-white, almost within arm's reach outside the window. Daisy's face was pressed against the glass in fascination. Roman gently pulled her back, lowered the window curtains, and handed her the food that the stewardess had just distributed, saying, "If you're hungry, have something to eat. It's still early for dinner." Daisy was pleasantly surprised and remarked, "They even serve food." Roman responded, "It's not a big deal. Food is always provided on planes." He offered her a burger. He flashed a charming smile and affectionately patted her head, comparing her to a kitten. "Dig in. If it's not enough, I've got another one for you." Daisy felt full after 2 servings of airplane meals and was starting to think about a comfortable nap. However, she was surprised to hear the announcement that they were about to land. Her eyes widened, and she asked Roman, "Are we disembarking?" "Of course," Roman replied with a smile. "When you take a flight, you have to get off during layovers." After a while of killing time in the luxurious airport lounge, they took their final flight. Soon they were flying over the coast of Hawaii. As they descended, Roman noticed a change in Daisy. She wasn't as nervous as before. He leaned over to the window to take a look. Indeed, there was a vast sea of lights below, becoming more distinct as they approached. In addition to the numerous lights from countless households, something even more captivating caught their eyes. The street lamps, adorned with long strings of beads, crisscrossed like constellations in the night sky, a breathtaking sight. Finally, the plane touched down, and a courteous individual awaited them at the exit, ready to assist with their luggage. Daisy felt a bit awkward and wished to be polite. Roman, with a subtle grin, led her forward. Daisy practically rushed along, almost dragged by Roman. She looked back, slightly uneasy. Someone had kindly come to pick them up. How could she leave her luggage to be handled by others and act as if she were a detached observer without a few polite words? But during her time with Roman, she'd learned that wealthy individuals often had this demeanor. Although she had benefited from being with him, they were far from being affluent themselves. She couldn't afford to be so arrogant. The hour was still early, and the streets bustled with activity, alive with bustling cars and pedestrians. The salty scent of the sea breeze hung in the air, carrying a hint of fish, gently warming their faces. It was undeniably different, unlike any place Daisy had ever experienced. With the car window open, the sea breeze played with Daisy's short hair, causing the strands to dance lightly. Roman couldn't resist the urge to reach out and run his fingers through her smooth hair. Upon arriving at the hotel, Daisy naturally expressed her gratitude to the man who had handled their luggage. He felt a bit embarrassed and turned to Roman, suggesting, "Mr. Spencer, should we arrange for meals now or in a bit?" "Now," Roman promptly replied. "My wife is feeling a bit peckish." In front of others, Daisy had to endure it. Ever since he proposed, he referred to her as either his husband or his wife, as if they were already married, even though it was clear they were only engaged. Furthermore, she wasn't actually hungry. She had eaten just before the plane landed, and now she was suddenly asked if she wanted a meal. Observing her lack of enthusiasm, Roman playfully tempted her, "Seafood dinner. It's exquisite." The thought did sound tempting. Daisy clenched her teeth and made the decision to join him. How could she pass up a seafood feast when they were at the beach? Roman instructed her to change into a long-sleeved t-shirt adorned with a bear print, and he gently wiped her face before taking her to dine. Descending to the second-floor restaurant, a waiter led them to a private room. Roman guided her to sit and teased, "Why do you always look at flowers and vegetables? Anyway, tell me, what would you like to eat?" Daisy's gaze fixed upon the array of dishes adorning the table. The formation was unfamiliar, leaving her in a bewildered state with no clear starting point. Most of the items were unrecognizable, especially the peculiarly shaped shellfish. She was eager to give them a try, convinced they must be delicious. The chef's personal touch in preparing the seafood assured its delectability. The temptation of such a splendid feast was irresistible to Daisy, and she indulged herself. Unfortunately, her stomach was already full from earlier, and she couldn't squeeze in much more. She regretted having eaten so much on the plane, raising her chin to observe Roman enjoying his meal alone. From the corner of his eye, Roman noticed her and couldn't help but chuckle. He playfully scolded himself for not thinking it through. He had only wished for Daisy to savor the food and make up for the meals she might have missed in recent days. He had forgotten that, regardless of her hearty appetite, there was a limit. As a result, Daisy could only watch him eat, feeling helpless. He picked up a shrimp and brought it toward her, saying, "Have another shrimp." Daisy furrowed her brow slightly and shook her head. "It's all right, just one bite," Roman urged. Daisy was tempted and slightly opened her mouth to receive the shrimp, but Roman suddenly pulled back his chopsticks. "Never mind, it's too hard to resist. I don't want to take you to the hospital like last time. You've already eaten on the flight." He spoke earnestly, but a mischievous smile played on his face. Daisy knew he was doing it on purpose, so she shot him a glare and remained silent. Roman chuckled and once again offered the shrimp, declaring, "I won't deceive you this time. I'm giving it to you." Daisy's heart warmed and she opened her mouth to accept the shrimp once more. However, Roman deftly turned the chopsticks and placed them in his mouth. This led to her playfully tapping the table in frustration. Despite typically maintaining her maturity and composure, she found Roman's teasing hard to resist. Grumbling, she said, "You're teasing me again." Roman flashed a mischievous smile and replied, "You're too trusting." "A little teasing won't hurt. Do you believe everything I say?" Daisy playfully responded, "If I don't believe you, who else should I believe?" Their playful banter continued, making the meal a delightful experience. They walked out of the restaurant. The night sky was full of stars. It was beautiful. Daisy looked up and said, "My aunt used to say, my mother is somewhere among the stars, always looking at me. She said I should take good care of myself to make Mom happy." Roman embraced her tightly, his emotions clearly stirred as he looked up at the night sky. His voice was steady and soft as he spoke. "Mom, I'll take good care of Daisy. Please don't worry, I'll treat her well." Daisy hadn't expected Roman to say this, and she found herself momentarily speechless. She just gazed at him, her dark eyes shining brightly in the moonlight, like flowing water. Roman, too, looked at her, his eyes as deep as the sea, holding her gaze. They simply stood there, gazing at each other for a while before drawing closer and sharing an affectionate kiss on the moonlit street. As Roman took Daisy to the beach for their vacation, news of their relationship became a sensation in the city and the upper class. Roman's public marriage proposal had been a shock to everyone. Following the initial shock, people had various reactions. Some were delighted, others relieved, some envious, a few jealous, and some were just waiting to see how it all unfolded. Some praised their love for transcending the barriers of class, while the others discarded it off as a mere publicity stunt. Back to Salt Lake, John accompanied Nina for a prenatal checkup and paid little attention to the news. However, Nina, bored while waiting, browsed the internet on her phone. She read through the various covers of Roman's proposal and their vacation. She was so excited about Daisy finally finding the happiness she deserved that she called Sarah and both of them happily chatted while John sat there getting bored. Iris, however, was the last to learn of the proposal. She had gone to Roman's office and found the staff chatting. A quick internet search had given her the shock of life. She went to drink, continuing until dinner time. When her phone rang, she initially ignored it, expecting it to be her mother calling to inquire about dinner. Typically, her mother wouldn't call again if she didn't answer the first time. However, on this occasion, the phone kept ringing. Annoyed, Iris finally picked it up, only to find Finn on the other end. His tone was cold and unmistakable as he said,
"Come home right now."
Iris snapped to attention, grabbed her bag, and rushed home. From Finn's tone, she knew that something was amiss. The sky had darkened and the streetlights began to illuminate the city. The neon signs of many shops were still unlit, casting an air of darkness over the streets. Despite the darkening sky and earth, the roads remained packed with cars, their horns creating a cacophony that only added to the tension. Iris surveyed her surroundings and decided to veer into the bus lane, designated solely for buses. She needed to get moving faster. Unfortunately, her luck took a turn for the worse. Shortly after entering the lane, she spotted a traffic policeman standing resolutely on the roadside, signaling her to stop. She pretended not to see and considered turning her car around, but the surrounding traffic had become gridlocked, leaving her no room to maneuver. Just as her anxiety mounted, the traffic officer rapped on her car window. Iris offered a charming smile and softly implored, "I'm sorry, I'll move my car right away." The traffic officer remained unfazed and requested in a businesslike tone, "Hand over your driver's license." Reluctantly, Iris surrendered her driver's license and pleaded, "This is truly my first time doing this, and I never intended to. Someone pushed me into this lane. Look at the traffic congestion. There's no way for me to turn back." She spoke rapidly, but the traffic officer furrowed his brow, leaned in closer, and scrutinized her. "First time?" Iris brightened and nodded eagerly. "Yes, it's really my first time." The traffic policeman then inquired, "Is it your first time taking the bus lane, or is it your first time drinking and driving?" The smile on Iris's face froze. How could she have forgotten about this? Drinking and driving was a serious offense. Her alcohol-laden breath made it difficult to deny. Her spirits deflated, and she reluctantly retrieved her phone. The traffic cop commanded, "Step down, miss, and cooperate for an alcohol test." Iris's heart sped up in nervousness, and she pleaded, "Can I make a call first, officer?" The cop looked at her and said, "Sure, after the test you can make all the calls you want." Iris reluctantly got down from her car and blew into the small device that the cop handed her. Her hands shook in nervousness as the officer examined the result and chuckled, "Impressive, you've hit the drunk driving threshold." "But I'm not drunk," Iris protested when she heard the officer. "Shouldn't this limit vary from person to person?" "I only had a small drink. You think I'm drunk now?" "I can see you can handle your drinks, but the data's clear. I must follow the rules. Your car can't be driven and you will get a DUI. Come with me. I'll accept the fine, whatever it is. I'll surrender the car and forget about the license, Iris said with a forced smile. I'm in a hurry. I'll call our driver if needed. The cop cautioned her again. In your situation, urgency can lead to trouble. We're doing this for your safety. Iris nodded and asked him, Then let me make a call first. Her plea went unheard by the cop who told her, Get in the car without delay. Iris realized arguing wouldn't help, so she climbed into the car. The officer drove her to the police station. On the way, she called Finn, explaining her situation and asking him to hurry. Finn was quite alarmed when he heard about Iris's situation and inquired about what happened. Iris, casting a quick glance at the officer, whispered that she'd been caught for driving under influence. Finn's face turned ashen with anger. Polly, who happened to be sitting near Finn when Iris had called, overheard the two and grew anxious. She couldn't wait anymore and asked, What's going on? Why is Iris at the police station? Finn hung up the phone and replied gruffly, She was caught, drunk, driving. She got a DUI, which means a 6-month license suspension and in severe cases, detention. Both Frank and Polly were shocked when they heard that the cops had arrested their daughter. Frank asked Finn, Iris was drunk driving? When did she start becoming so careless? I didn't even realize that she was a heavy drinker. Polly knew very well why her daughter was acting in such a volatile manner and said, She doesn't drink much. Maybe the news of Roman and Daisy getting engaged took a toll on her. Finn, unable to digest the situation very easily, changed the subject. Mom, Dad. I'll get her back first, and then we can ask these things from Iris herself. Yes, go quickly and bring her home, urged Polly, deeply worried about Iris's situation. Watching Finn leave, she sat down and sighed. Why is everything turning into such a mess? Watching his wife's anxious face, Frank took a puff from his pipe and said, Let's wait for Iris to return and get the full story. The unfolding of events had gone far beyond his expectations. He couldn't help but recall Roman's peculiar behavior on New Year's Eve. There was an air of secrecy about it, and Roman had hurriedly left early that morning. While the Spencer family's explanations seemed logical, Frank had suspected that they were hiding something. When rumors surfaced that Iris had stolen someone's boyfriend, he wasn't entirely surprised. He had sensed that Roman had genuine feelings for someone else. Frank shared the belief that Roman couldn't possibly be serious about a mere housemaid, and marriage into that family was out of the question. The Spencer family's traditions ran deep, and they wouldn't let a mere maid tarnish their lineage so easily. The reputation of the Spencer family was at stake. They had a close relationship with the Andersons, and it was no secret that Roman had been waiting for Iris. During John's wedding, Roman and Iris were inseparable. Initially, rumors that Iris had stolen someone's boyfriend were dismissed as mere gossip. After all, how could a mere housemaid compete with Iris Anderson? But now it was clear that everyone had underestimated Roman's feelings for Daisy. Finn had no trouble extracting Iris from the clutches of the police. A single phone call reduced a major problem to a minor inconvenience. Captain Lee personally saw them off and offered a word of advice. Miss Anderson, while you might be able to hold your liquor, it's better to err on the side of caution. Who knows what might happen? Better to stay safe. Finn squinted at Iris, saying, If Mom and Dad didn't insist on bringing you home, I'd leave you here for a few days. Captain Lee, thank you for your advice. Iris looked down and admitted her mistake. I won't cause trouble again. No trouble at all. Captain Lee beamed. This matter is not that big a deal. For safety's sake, just be more careful in the future. Once they both were in the car, Finn's expression darkened and an icy atmosphere filled the vehicle. Iris couldn't help but shiver, sensing her elder brother's anger. Lowering her head, she whispered, Brother, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Finn retorted. Who are you trying to fool? You worked hard to overcome your drinking problem, and now you're back at it in secret. Are you intentionally trying to self-destruct? I didn't drink much, Iris mumbled softly. Why did you drink at all? Finn finally looked at her. Is it because of what's going on between Roman and Daisy? Iris felt even more ashamed at that. Brother, do you know everything? Finn snorted. I know what's going on. The whole world does. Our parents are nearly frantic. What do you think we should do? Even they know about it? Iris was surprised. How did they find out? Finn looked at her and retorted. It was in the evening newspaper that Roman proposed to Daisy. Don't tell me you didn't know. Iris's mind was in a whirl and her complexion paled. Roman, what are you saying? Roman proposed to that maid? This can't be true. Finn slowed down and parked the car by the roadside, giving her a scrutinizing look. You genuinely didn't know? Iris whispered. I didn't. I was upset when I saw them together this afternoon, so I went for a drink. But when did the proposal happen? Finn turned to his sister and said, At Daisy's art exhibition. Roman proposed in front of everyone. He spared no expense. Just 2 days ago, a loose diamond was auctioned for over $2 million, making headlines. The buyer was described as a mysterious man, but I didn't expect it to be him. He's willing to go to great lengths for a maid. Iris seemed to hear Finn's words without really comprehending them. Her thoughts were in turmoil and her palms were sweaty. She realized that Roman had dared to defy the world, proposing publicly to convey his stance to the family. Finn couldn't help but sigh when he saw his sister's state. He gently patted her hand, saying, Let it go. Don't dwell on it. If Roman has made up his mind, we should respect it. He's not the only good man in the world. Iris shook her head numbly. Brother, you don't understand. Finn gave her a glance of sympathy and replied, I don't understand why you're so persistent. You were like this with Adam before and now with Roman. Iris, please, I don't want to see you hurt again. Iris remained silent for a while and then said, Roman is different from Adam. He won't hurt me. Finn saw that she was in a daze, likely overwhelmed, so he said, I won't push you. Take your time to think. Just don't say anything to our parents. They're furious after seeing the newspaper. If they get angry at you, don't argue back, understand? I know, Finn, Iris replied softly. Don't worry about it. Despite Finn's stern demeanor, he loved his sister deeply. She had been pampered and raised with care. While others might envy her, Finn was the only one who understood the depth of Iris's feelings. He couldn't help but feel sad, considering how a woman as wonderful as her had experienced such a challenging fate. He had believed that, with Roman, she had finally found the right man to marry, but it had all come to an end. It was impossible for him not to be heartbroken for her. While all this drama was unfolding in the Anderson house, the Spencer villa was having a share of its own. With the heir of the family publicly proposing to a maid, it would be fair to say that everyone did not rejoice at the idea. Victoria's eyes were red, and she looked like she was on the brink of collapse from the moment she saw the news. She looked at the food on the table but couldn't muster an appetite. Rachel was also at home, and she had learned about the situation as soon as it surfaced online. Worried that their parents couldn't bear the news, she rushed back from work early, hoping to discuss the matter with everyone. It was one thing if the news had only spread online, but the evening newspaper had published it, and there was no way to hide it. Rachel was concerned that their father's health wouldn't hold up under the stress. When she arrived home, she found George and Victoria sitting in the living room. Her father was still calm, but Victoria was in a terrible state. Her mother saw her coming and said with tears in her eyes, Rachel, your brother has done something foolish. He publicly proposed to Daisy and gave her an expensive diamond ring. Do you think he's trying to torment me all the time? No matter how much you cry, he won't hear you. George calmly sipped his tea. Why are you so nonchalant? Your son wants to marry a maid and bring disgrace to the family, and you're taking your time, Victoria exclaimed. Mom, don't panic. It's just a proposal for now, not a marriage. We can still salvage the situation if we think this through. I know he might be infatuated at the moment, but he'll come to his senses later. If you and Dad don't approve, he won't get married, Rachel reassured Victoria. Rachel is right. It's just a proposal, not a marriage, George acknowledged. Even though that girl hasn't been with us for long, I can tell she's a sensible person. We should find an opportunity to meet her. It might be the only way now. I think it'll work, Rachel chimed in. Daisy is actually quite easy to influence. Have you talked to her? George inquired with a slight frown. Rachel realized that she hadn't shared the previous incident with her parents, so she didn't bother doing so this time either. She stuck out her tongue and whispered, I was trying to save you from worrying and get rid of her quietly. Never mind. Victoria sighed. Getting rid of Daisy alone won't solve this. Even if Daisy leaves, he'll go to great lengths to bring her back. I just can't comprehend what's so appealing about that girl. She can barely look people in the eye when she talks to them. Roman is so besotted that he's lost his senses. George shook his head, saying, Roman is genuinely in love and is willing to make sacrifices for someone. However, he's the president of the Spencer family with a board of directors and thousands of employees under his authority. Any disruption should not be taken lightly. Victoria considered this and realized George was correct. She sighed and added, If he truly cares for Daisy, he can support her. As long as she stays in her place and doesn't cause trouble, we can coexist peacefully. Mom, don't you see? Rachel interjected. The issue now isn't just about Daisy, it's about Roman. Even if Daisy is gone, Roman can bring her back. He proposed to her publicly to prove his sincerity. This situation? Rachel sighed as well. It's truly complicated. Later, when everyone was sitting at the dinner table in the Spencer villa, the mood was still gloomy, to say the least. Nobody had much of an appetite, so they barely touched their food and had it cleared away by the servants. Victoria, who was growing more anxious, urged Rachel to call Roman's mobile phone again. The day's events had been so unexpected that it felt like the world was collapsing around her. She needed to hear Roman's explanation directly from him. However, Roman's cell phone remained off, leading to more worry for her. She turned to her daughter and asked, Why does Roman keep his phone turned off? Is something wrong? I think he's avoiding us, Rachel suggested. He probably knew the consequences would be serious, so he left the city with Daisy. Before coming home, I dropped by his apartment first, but his household informed me that they both had gone for a vacation. Ask Sarah where he's gone, George suggested. He might be able to dodge this for a bit, but not for long. He'll have to face it sooner or later. Today is a weekend. He can hide for a couple of days. Come Monday, those board members are likely to stir up trouble. It cannot get any worse, Victoria lamented as she heard Rachel. You should ask Sarah about where your brother is, George added. Rachel called Sarah, but she only mentioned that Roman was on a trip. No matter how much Rachel pressed for details, Sarah refused to reveal his location. Rachel expressed concern about not being able to contact him due to his phone always being turned off. Sarah sounded helpless, mentioning that Roman would call back if necessary, but even she couldn't reach him. Rachel suspected that Sarah was keeping something from them, but she knew that Sarah's loyalty lay firmly with Roman. There was no point in pressing her further, so she hung up the call. George, who was the only one who hadn't lost his calm yet, said, Let's just make sure he's okay. We'll wait till he comes back. Rachel and Victoria nodded, knowing very well that this was the only option left now since there was no way to get a hold of Roman currently. The sunshine in Hawaii was incredibly bright, and Daisy seemed to be more vibrant in this setting. She held a coconut, savored the juice inside, and waved energetically to Roman, who was out in the sea surfing. Roman, dressed in beach attire, had a deep tan that glistened in the sun, making him look robust. Sweat poured freely from his brow as he faced the waves again. It had been a while since he'd surfed, and the feeling of leaving all worries behind just to have fun battling the waves was exhilarating. After some time playing in the sea, Roman returned to the shore and sat down beside Daisy, completely soaked. Daisy set aside the coconut and grabbed a large towel to help him dry off. Roman eyed the green coconut and inquired, "Is that any good? You seem to be enjoying it." "It's so refreshing and good for your health," Daisy replied, casting aside the towel and reaching for the coconut. Roman had never tried one of these, so he got intrigued by her description and said, "I'll give it a shot. Can you pass me one?" Daisy placed the straw at his lips, and Roman took a small sip. His face contorted in a perplexed expression as he looked at her. "Why do you seem to enjoy everything? I've been fooled so many times by that." Daisy burst into laughter, hugging Roman's neck and playfully saying, "You're the picky one. These are really delicious." Roman rolled his hands and placed her on his lap, his smile mischievous. "Do you know what my favorite food is?" Daisy, having learned her lesson, was ready to escape if the situation took a turn, but Roman's arms held her like iron clamps, making it impossible for her to move. Roman lightly kissed her lips. Daisy was bewildered when she heard him say, "You're my favorite food." He then wrapped her in a large bath towel, ready to head to the pool. Upon arriving at the downstairs swimming pool, they found it empty since the guests preferred the beach over the pool. Given Daisy's lack of swimming skills and the rough sea, Roman had opted for the pool. The sun was scorching, and before they entered the water, Roman tried to apply sunscreen to Daisy. However, Daisy didn't quite understand his intentions. When he touched her, she jumped up in surprise. Public displays of affection were clearly not her thing. Daisy folded her arms, looking at him with a suspicious expression. "You said you came here to swim." "You're the one here to swim," Roman replied, a mix of amusement and exasperation in his tone. "What's the fuss? I just wanted to make sure you don't get sunburned." Daisy eyed him skeptically. "If you apply that stuff, won't it wash away in the water?" "It is waterproof," Roman responded. "I don't want to," Daisy replied with a serious expression. With no one else around, she felt rather uneasy. Roman couldn't help but be amused. He genuinely had no ulterior motives, yet Daisy was treating him as if he were a wolf. In Daisy's mind, he probably was a big bad wolf. "Can't you stay put?" Roman narrowed his eyes and gave her a threatening look. "I won't," Daisy replied, determined not to let him succeed. She quickly glanced around, hoping to escape. Roman couldn't help but chuckle as he advanced slowly toward her. That smile of his had Daisy panicked, but she found herself with no escape route. In desperation, she jumped into the water. Unfortunately, the area she leaped into was deeper than she had anticipated. As soon as she entered the water, Daisy felt breathless. Water entered her mouth as she gasped for air. She took in a couple of mouthfuls of water to relieve the feeling of suffocation, but the sensation returned quickly, forcing her to open her mouth once more. After taking another sip of water, she began to regain her breath as she felt the warmth of the sun. Daisy took 2 deep breaths and slowly opened her eyes. Roman looked at her with a teasing smile. "Are you stupid? If you can't swim, why did you jump in?" She wrapped one arm around Roman's neck and used the other hand to rub her nose. The force with which she leaped into the water had caused water to enter her nose, making her uncomfortable. Roman caught her hand and said, "Stop rubbing it. It'll be fine in a moment." Daisy grumbled, "It's all your fault." "Why are you blaming me?" Roman replied with a playful tone. "You were the one who jumped in." "Because you were chasing me. That's why I jumped," Daisy retorted. "Am I really that intimidating?" Roman tilted his head, half smiling. "Who says you're not?" Daisy mumbled, a mix of embarrassment and frustration lining her features. Daisy had just experienced a minor mishap and was feeling a bit weak. She leaned lazily on Roman and said, "Why do you always turn everything into something else?" Roman pinched her waist playfully and said with a grin, "I was just trying to put on sunscreen and you made a big fuss. Now, what do you think you're doing in this position? Are you trying to seduce me?" Daisy was momentarily stunned before she realized her posture. Her legs were wrapped around Roman's waist and her arms were around his neck. It did seem a bit suggestive. She quickly released her grip and tried to disentangle herself. Roman looked at her and said, "If you really want to get down, I won't stop you." With a gentle release, Daisy slipped down but found herself in deeper water. Panicking, she reached out and held onto Roman's shoulder. She felt embarrassed and annoyed, saying, "Take me out of here." Roman said in a serious tone, "Don't you want to learn to swim? How will you learn if you don't get in the water?" It was Daisy's first time in a swimming pool, and she didn't know about the deep and shallow areas. She assumed it was all the same. She bit her lip and said, "Fine, then I won't learn." Roman reassured her, "Look at you. You were excited when you got here, but you gave up before even trying. No one becomes an expert swimmer in just 2 minutes. Don't worry, I'm here. You'll be fine." Daisy wanted to say that she was only worried when Roman was around. Who knew what antics he might pull? Her wet hair clung together and her shoulders were turning a faint shade of red from the sun. Seeing this, Roman felt a slight itch in his heart, wanting to lean down and kiss that delicate skin. However, he held back, stopped teasing her, and guided her toward the shallower end of the pool with his arms wrapped around her waist. Daisy was surprised as she started swimming. It was an exhilarating experience as her body moved in sync with the water ripples. The sensation of comfort and freedom was entirely new to her. "Come lie on me again," Roman raised an eyebrow. "I promise I won't scare you." Daisy hugged his neck tightly and said in a hesitant tone, "I'm not so sure about that." Roman chuckled and said, "Come on." Daisy looked down and realized that the water barely reached Roman's waist. That explained why it was so shallow. She jumped back into the water, which was just up to her waist. Roman shook his head, finding it amusing how she could be both so childlike and yet so captivating to him. Why was he so captivated by Daisy? It was a heavy question that he couldn't immediately answer. Deciding to focus on teaching Daisy how to swim, he walked to the edge of the pool and sat down. Daisy gradually relaxed and concentrated on her lessons. Her natural coordination made it easier for her to grasp the movements. After half an hour of instruction, she was able to swim for brief periods with Roman's guidance. Sometimes, when Roman withdrew his support, she didn't even notice and continued swimming with enthusiasm. It was only when she saw Roman getting farther away that she snapped back to reality. Panic welled up in her and her body began to sink. Thankfully, the water wasn't deep and she could touch the bottom, avoiding the frantic floundering she had done earlier. After some time, Roman said, "Daisy, go up and take a break for a while. You're just starting. No need to push yourself too hard." Daisy followed him to the poolside and Roman grabbed a dry towel to gently dry her off. As soon as he finished, Daisy began to put on her clothes that were laid out on the deck chair. Roman found it rather amusing. "No need to rush. You're not around anyone else?" Daisy hesitated for a moment and said, "You're here." Daisy blushed and wrapped a large bath towel around her. Roman didn't find it funny. Instead, he felt relieved that Daisy was so modest in front of him, making it impossible for other men to ogle her. He handed her a glass of juice, holding the sunscreen reluctantly, and said, "I better put some sunscreen on you, otherwise you'll get sunburned." Daisy took a couple of sips of iced juice and replied nonchalantly, "It's all right. I've had my skin peel before. When I was young, I worked in the fields with my grandmother. After a day in the sun, our skin would be all red and itchy." Every time Daisy talked about her past, Roman couldn't help but feel a deep sadness, but he remained silent. Because Daisy had endured so much hardship in the past, He was now reluctant to let her suffer anymore. He wanted to give her the best in every way possible. Daisy sat on a lounge chair, sipping her juice, listening to the distant sound of waves and feeling the sun's golden glow on the water's surface. "This is such a beautiful place," Daisy mused as she gazed at Roman, who sat on another lounge chair sipping red wine. A smile brightened her lips. The thought of staying here forever, away from the hustle and bustle of the city, sounded simply perfect to her. Roman and Daisy had spent their entire day by the poolside enjoying the sun and nature around them. In the evening, a perfect sunset gradually de-zeroed, painting half the sky in crimson hues. The radiance rivaled neon lights, casting a breathtaking spell. Daisy had seen sunsets before, but here it held a unique charm. She held her breath, fixated on the spectacle. Roman approached her from behind, his deep voice echoing, "Isn't it magnificent?" She replied, "Indeed," as her face lit up. Roman leaned down, planting a kiss on her cheek, turning her around. Daisy's eyes widened in astonishment when her eyes fell on what appeared to be a makeshift barbecue with a small table adorned with a delightful spread. It was like magic. While gazing at the sunset, a feast materialized before her, making the food even more enticing in the fading sunlight. Daisy's joy knew no bounds as she hopped around, holding on to Roman's arm like a child. She didn't waste any time and started tending to the barbecue, brushing on oil and flipping skewers with enthusiasm. Roman, captivated by her jubilant expression, grilled a squid for her. His eyes filled with affection when he said, "Sit down and eat. There's no need to fuss around here." Daisy savored a bite of the perfectly grilled squid, smooth, tender, and slightly chewy, adorned with a delicate layer of spicy sauce. Daisy appeared quite surprised. While munching on the squid, she mumbled, "It tastes better than what you get outside." Roman, focused on the task, interrupted, "Finish eating before you talk. You might accidentally bite your tongue." As he spoke, Daisy let out an ouch and indeed bit her tongue. Roman swiftly put down the skewers and guided Daisy aside, saying, "Let me see where you bit yourself." Daisy wrinkled her face and eventually extended her tongue. Roman examined it closely and reassured her, "It's okay, just a minor bite." He let out a sigh of relief and scolded her, "I told you to eat without talking. What were you blabbering about? No one's trying to steal your food." She blushed at his reprimand and gently rubbed her arm. Daisy found it heartwarming to have someone look after her like this. The feeling of being loved and cared for was incredibly comforting. She wasn't afraid of Roman's disapproving glares. Occasionally, she playfully returned a glare, which always made the man who was trying to appear stern burst into laughter. He couldn't help but try to steal a kiss, but she avoided him. "I've got a mouthful of squid." She looked back and forth before finally taking a seat in a nearby chair. Roman felt that the grilling was almost done, so he fetched some fruit for the young lady, saying, "Don't just eat the barbecue, have it with some fruit." Daisy forked a piece of pineapple into her mouth. It was sweet and slightly tangy, causing her mouth to water. She set aside the barbecue plate and began to enjoy the fruit. Roman loved watching her eat. She savored every bite as if everything was exquisite. Nothing ever tasted unappetizing in her presence. Roman was somewhat particular about food and had a modest appetite, but when they were together, they often found themselves eating heartily without even realizing it. Daisy was his treasure, and he was utterly captivated by her, to the extent that he didn't want to be apart for even a single moment. He acknowledged that this was a problem. It was fine to have her accompany him to work occasionally, but they couldn't be together everywhere. As he mused on this, Daisy playfully fed him a piece of pineapple. It was evidently sweet, but he wrinkled his nose and said, "Sour." Daisy was indeed fooled by his antics and took a small bite herself before saying, "Mine tastes very sweet." "Really?" Roman held the little girl's hand, nibbled on the piece of pineapple, and mused, "It's sweet, but why does mine turn out sour?" Without a trace of doubt, the girl suggested, "You must have eaten something sour before." Roman suddenly appeared as though he'd had a revelation, exclaiming, "I get it now. It only turns sweet after you've taken a bite." Only then did Daisy realize that Roman was teasing her. She couldn't help but laugh. However, Roman seized her hand, pulling her onto his lap. Cradling her in his arms always brought him immense contentment. Simply sitting here in silence, gazing outward, gave them so much peace. "Do you like it here?" Roman asked Daisy after some time. Daisy turned to him and said, "I do." "When we grow old, would you like to live here?" Roman asked. She responded with enthusiasm, "Absolutely." Roman's eyes grew distant as if he was softly sighing. "When I'll be old and you'll still be young, you won't dislike me then, will you?" Daisy didn't utter a word, but her gaze bore a hint of anger and hurt, as if she couldn't fathom why Roman would pose such a question. Roman smiled as he took her hand and gently kissed her lips. "Am I talking crazy?" Daisy shot him an annoyed glance and said, "How could you ask me that?" "I told you I'd always be with you, but it looks like you don't believe me. I fret over things too much." Roman held the girl's hand and smiled again. "If I am being honest, being so much older than you does make me uneasy sometimes." Daisy's eyes welled up with tears instantly, and she playfully punched him. "You just think very silly things. You're hopeless." "I'm not joking." The man's eyes were deeper as he said, "I can't spend a single moment without you." "What about me?" "Do you think I can?" Daisy protested. "You're actually stronger than me," Roman said with a smile. "You leave me every time, and no matter how angry I am at you, I always want to win you back." "Are you still upset with me for that?" Daisy lowered her head, recalling what had occurred before. Though her intentions were good, that still didn't justify what she put him through. "I'm not upset anymore. In fact, I wish you'd love me less," Roman said with a heavy heart. It was undoubtedly a poetic and picturesque setting, with their bodies entwined and their love as sweet as honey. However, Roman's words had cast a shadow over Daisy, and her heart felt burdened, like a heavy stone pressing upon her, giving rise to a sense of panic. She reached up to wipe her eyes, rendered momentarily speechless. Roman suddenly chuckled, saying, "See, I can be quite foolish. There's no reason to say such things out of the blue." "Roman, I love you so much." Daisy nestled into his embrace and tenderly caressed his arm with her fingers. Any deeply loving couple in this world would likely dread the thought of living alone, unable to bear the pangs of longing and endless solitude. It was a harsh reality, but Daisy was willing to endure it just to provide him with reassurance. He affectionately ruffled the girl's head, and with a smile he said, "I'll remain by your side for a long time." Daisy ceased to respond, gazing into the distance in silence as the sky gradually darkened inch by inch. "Let's grab something to eat," Roman suggested, pulling Daisy to her feet. He walked over to the barbecue grill, handed her a few sizzling skewers, and then eagerly resumed his work. As the night deepened, Daisy requested Roman to join her for a beachside stroll. A bright moon shone brilliantly in the sky. The stars were tightly packed, appearing as if they might tumble from the heavens. Under the radiant starlight, they embraced each other and shared a kiss. Back in the city, everyone was taken aback by Roman and Daisy's public announcement of their engagement. When Tony saw the news, he went to Adam's house to visit him and gauge his reaction. As they sat in Adam's living room, Tony took a sip of wine, squinting at Adam with a curious gaze. "Well, we should be happy for the new couple, don't you think?" It's great news, yet it does not look like it sits well with you. Are you having any trouble? Tony remarked when he saw Adam looking at their pictures in the newspaper with a blank face. Adam looked at him with a calm demeanor, not giving anything away, and said, "What's so good about this news? And what do you want me to do? Jump in joy?" Tony countered, "Why shouldn't you be happy?" Roman's public proposal to Daisy means Iris is out of the picture. Women need warmth the most when they're sad and lonely. This is your chance to swoop in and provide comfort and soothe Iris's wounded heart. You two are bound to get together. It's a golden opportunity. How about I come up with a plan for you to ensure your dreams come true? You can thank me later for my services when you have your girl. Just get on with it. I am so done with your tragic Romeo phase already. Get Iris back in your life and walk into the sunset with a happily ever after. Adam heard his rant, but chose not to react to it. As the night wore on, Tony's enthusiasm eventually waned, and he gave up on convincing his friend to spring into action. He put his glass down and went on to have some fun elsewhere, leaving Adam to his own devices. After all these years, no matter what Adam did, he couldn't evade his self-constructed gloom. Even when he experienced fleeting moments of joy, they were followed by a lingering sense of emptiness, as if he were exhausted. Leaning against the bedside, he lit a cigarette, taking a drag and observing as the ember flickered and slowly turned to ashes. Adam released a long breath before getting out of bed and heading to the bathroom for a shower. He stood before the mirror, studying his reflection. His entire body felt numb, and he was so fatigued that he didn't want to move. This sense of powerlessness lingered for quite some time. As a result, in recent years, he had seldom sought the company of women for the night. His girlfriends came and went, serving merely as a facade. Others couldn't see the inner scars, so he strived to maintain a lively exterior. Everyone assumed he was a privileged kid who had been born with a silver spoon in his mouth, towering above everything he desired. They envied him, unaware that the opulent mansions and grandiose homes were as cold as high places. In recent years, his insomnia had worsened. Sleep eluded him night after night. He would stand on the terrace, clutching a glass of red wine, exposed to the chill of the night. The entire city slumbered peacefully, while he remained the solitary, wakeful soul. He loathed this feeling and had tried numerous remedies for his insomnia, to little avail. Upon seeing the news, he thought that it would bring happiness, but it did not. The photograph was beautifully captured, Roman's eyes brimming with affection, Daisy appearing flustered and bashful, and the multi-million-dollar diamond ring truly enthralling. At that moment, he was consumed by jealousy. All the lovers in the world could eventually wed, but he was the exception, forever barred from matrimony. All because the girl he loved, Iris, had nothing but hatred in her eyes for him. The depths of her enmity were enough to shatter his confidence. Was it his love for Iris, or a possessiveness he felt because of her attraction to Roman? He didn't know. But these days he was finding her irresistible like never before. His want for her seemed to burn a hole in his heart every minute he spent away from her. As he stood there lost in thoughts, shower water cascaded upon his body with just the right intensity. He did nothing but stand there, silently and unmoving. Where miles apart, Adam and Iris were aching over lost love. Roman and Daisy lay in each other's embrace. Kissing Daisy's temple, Roman said, "I'll accompany you to watch the stars at night, okay? We can do it on the sea, where the stars are incredibly beautiful. There's an observatory on the deck, and you can see millions of stars in the bright Milky Way. It's breathtaking." Really? Daisy's interest piqued once more. Could she still find the star where her mother might be? Roman took her hands in his and said, "Absolutely. After dinner, we'll head up to the deck for stargazing. I'll teach you how to spot constellations. It's a lot of fun." The little girl in her couldn't be more elated to hear that. Just as Roman was talking, his phone rang. It was the first time his phone had rung since they started their journey. He'd changed his contact, and only Sarah and John could call him when it was an emergency. The call was from John. He picked it up and listened to what John had to say. John's voice was composed, but it didn't make the news he delivered any less serious. Roman heard John inform him, "Roman, the second phase of funding for the ecological park hasn't been transferred. We have been sent a letter for breach of contract and Aled is nowhere to be found." Roman furrowed his brow, asking, "Where the hell is Aled right now?" He could hear John sigh and say, "He was here in the office last Friday, but after that, nobody knows where he is." Roman nodded and said to John, "I'll be there as soon as I can. Just keep looking for Aled and talk to the Millers till I come back." Roman hung up the call and ran his hand through his hair before looking out of the window. The weather was beautiful, with a clear blue sky, but an ominous feeling crept over him. He hesitated for a moment and then turned to Daisy, who was already looking at him. He said apologetically, "I wanted to stay with you for a few more days, but I'm afraid we can't. We have to go back." Daisy assessed his stressed-out face and asked immediately, "What happened? Is it an emergency?" Roman sighed before saying, "The company has some urgent matters that I need to look into." Daisy was a sensible girl, and she understood the situation very well. She quickly responded, "Then we should get back tonight. The company's matters are important." Roman pulled Daisy into his arms, resting his chin on her forehead. He murmured, "I'm sorry, Daisy. I promise we'll come back here some other time." Daisy kept her hands in his and said, "I don't mind. Don't think too much about it." Roman booked a return flight and made all the arrangements to rush back home. This was not how he had imagined their vacation to come to an end, but there was only so much he could control in his life. He had to make peace with it and move on. Late at night, Roman and Daisy arrived back in the city. John and Matt had come to pick them up. John wore a calm expression, but upon seeing Daisy, he couldn't help himself and said to her, "Hey, Daisy, it's been a few days and you look more beautiful than ever. That place suited you well, I can see." Daisy recognized his intention to lighten the mood and responded with a knowing smile. John continued inquiring about their vacation in Hawaii. He asked about the weather, whether Roman had treated Daisy to seafood, and if she had taken a dip in the ocean. At first, she was a bit anxious, but when she noticed John's usual laughter and banter, she relaxed and answered his questions with equal excitement. It wasn't until they left the airport gate and she had settled into the car with Roman when she heard him ask, "Why are you so chatty with him? Don't tell me you find his lame jokes funny." Before Daisy could reply, John seated himself in the front and quipped, "Are you jealous that I get a few more words from her?" Roman just snorted and ignored him, slyly pinching Daisy's waist. She burst into ticklish laughter, then blushed and lightly patted his hand. John added, "Hey, if you want to play around, at least be mindful of those in front of you. I have a family and Matt here is still single. Think about his feelings." Matt joined in, saying, "Mr. John, I'm perfectly fine on my own." Daisy couldn't stop laughing, burying her face in Roman's chest. Back at the apartment, Matt left their luggage upstairs and Roman saw him off. Then Roman and John went into the study room while Daisy prepared 2 cups of coffee and served it to them. John was flattered by the hospitality and said, "Oh, sister-in-law, how lovely of you." Daisy, stunned at his sister-in-law comment, shot him an angry glare as a protest. Roman chuckled and pulled her closer, planting a kiss on her lips. "Ignore him. Go get some rest. I need to talk to John about something." Daisy blushed and reminded him, "Don't stay up too late. You have office tomorrow." Roman couldn't help but smile at her concern. He gently patted Daisy and said, "I won't now. Go to sleep." As soon as Daisy left the room, the smile vanished from Roman's face as he turned to John and questioned, "What's happening?" John took a sip of coffee, his expression turning somber. "This is getting strange. The letter of contract breach because of delayed payments arrived in the afternoon. I tried calling Aled immediately, but his phone was off. My secretary mentioned he hadn't shown up in the office at all today. I had this gut feeling that something was going on with him. Roman asked him, "Have you sent someone to check on him at his house?" John sat on the couch and said, "I did, but no one's there. His security guard said that Aled's family moved out a year ago and no one knows where they live as of now." Roman let out an irritated sigh before asking, "What's the word from the finance department?" John paused for a moment and replied, "The finance manager didn't show up today. The folks beneath him don't have a clear picture. The managers always handled the financial matters for the eco park." Roman, with a contemplative pause, held his cup, sipping his coffee slowly. John added, "I also sent someone to inquire at Manager Green's place. He left the city last Friday, but I couldn't find any info at the airport. He probably left by car." After a pause, John admitted to Roman, "This is on me. I misjudged Aled." Only then did Roman look up, glaring at John. "It's too early to jump to conclusions. I wonder why he'd betray us." John fell silent. He'd thought his years in the business had given him a keen eye, but now he was in a tight spot. "What's Adam's stance on this?" Roman inquired. "It may look all business," John said, pulling out the letter, "but the words in here are aggressive. There's no sign of leniency from his side." Roman lit a cigarette and exhaled slowly, saying, "Is Adam involved in this too?" John thought for a moment before saying, "It's unclear. We've had smooth cooperation with Miller's since the project started. No issues till now. But this time it's suspicious." Roman thought about John's words and said, "The company probably can't afford such a large sum right now, right?" John shook his head and said, "I checked the account. I'm not out of options. I'd pooled subsidiary funds as a backup, but you had me transfer them to your father's account. If that money is still somehow there, it can be our last resort." Roman nodded his head, saying, "All right, I'll talk to him tomorrow, but the sum is small and it won't last long. We need to find other sources." John nodded. "Let's tackle the immediate issue and figure the rest out later." He stood up to take his leave. "You've had a long journey. Get some rest. I'll see you at the company tomorrow." Roman escorted him to the door and asked, "How's the stock market today?" John hesitated, then replied, "It's stable. Why? You suspect something." "No, Aled isn't that crafty. He's just after money." Roman shook his head. "I have a feeling it's not that simple. Money issues can be solved, but if there's manipulation in the stock market, it will be very tricky." John's face grew serious at Roman's words, but he remained silent. He sighed and left the room, thinking that if Roman was right, the company would be in deep trouble. After seeing John off, Roman didn't head upstairs. He stood on the terrace, the night wind biting at his face. It had been a while since spring began, but the temperature still remained low. The sky was inky black, a faint crescent moon casting a shadow. He rubbed his cold face and returned inside. The situation was odd, no matter how you looked at it. In Roman's memory, Aled had always been low-key and reserved. He had never displayed any animosity, and despite starting from the bottom in the company, he never complained. Day by day, year by year, he toiled earnestly, gradually earning trust and important responsibilities. If Aled had plotted this from the beginning, it had to be more than just a simple money grab. Pushing the door open, he entered the room. The bed's quilt was neatly spread, a small lump in the center. He knew Daisy must have curled up, her preferred sleeping position. He went up to her and held her all night. Over time, it became his habit, and it seemed like now he couldn't sleep without holding her. The next morning, Roman got up early to leave for his office and called his father on his way to work. He asked George about that sum of money, only to learn that his doubts were right. Aled had not only taken money from the ecological park project, but also swindled George to loan him the reserved money for some business. When George noticed his son's urgency, he asked, "Roman, is something wrong?" Roman did not want to tell his father about Aled, so he said calmly, "Anything that can be resolved with money isn't a big deal." George had faith in his son's capabilities and decided not to probe further. He had intended to discuss Daisy with him, but seeing Roman's hurry, he let it be and said his goodbye. On his way back to the company, Roman's phone rang, displaying an unfamiliar number. He hesitated for a moment before answering, and as he heard the voice on the other end, a smile gently curved his lips. It was Daisy. Her cell phone had been broken, so she had resorted to the landline to call him. Daisy seldom called him in the morning, so Roman was taken aback. He spoke softly. "Are you already awake?" Daisy replied. "Why did you leave so early? You wanted something from me." Roman felt a warm thrill in his heart. "Did you miss me?" Daisy responded with a vague hum. "I just wanted to be with you." Roman's joy was evident as he said, "I'll be quite occupied today. Might not have much time." Daisy immediately said, "Never mind, I'll stay home. I wouldn't want to be a bother." Roman was somewhat disappointed to hear that and replied, "You won't be a bother. I'm afraid you'll be bored." Daisy said, "I'm not afraid of boredom. I can hang out with Sarah. In that case, I'll come to pick you up." Roman offered, and Daisy was more than willing. He signaled for Matt to turn back towards their apartment. Daisy insisted, "It's not necessary. I can make my way there." Roman assured her, "It's no trouble at all. I'm nearby. I'll swing by and pick you up." Daisy agreed. "All right," as Roman hung up the call. As Roman's car turned the corner, he spotted Daisy eagerly waiting on the street for him to pick her up. Despite the busy morning rush, he found her in an instant. Since they were going to spend their day together in his office, he was looking forward to it. Roman stepped out of the car and saw Daisy looking at him with a warm smile. "You got here so quickly." He leaned in to kiss her cheek, a habit he couldn't get enough of, and said, "I did say it'd be nearby, didn't I?" As they sat in the car, Roman asked her, "Have you had breakfast?" Daisy smiled at his concern and said, "I did. Made some toast and added an egg." Roman held her hand, smiling. "That's good. You shouldn't go hungry when I'm not around." Daisy proudly declared, "I can take care of myself very well. You should keep that in mind." Roman teased her, saying, "Normally you refuse to join me at work. What changed your mind today?" Daisy blushed a bit, resting her head on his shoulder. Roman laughed and said, "I'm really glad you're coming with me, though." Their soft, tender conversation continued throughout the journey, playfully tormenting Matt, the lone driver ahead. Upon reaching the company, Roman made Daisy go over to Sarah before heading to his meeting. Daisy had in fact come to the company today to hang out with Sarah. She knew that something significant had occurred in the Spencer business, given Roman's late-night return and John's prolonged phone call, and wanted to know all about it through her friend. Since she was sure that Roman was not going to share the details with her, Sarah was her only hope now. As soon as Roman was out of their sight, she turned to Sarah and said, "I want to know all that is going on with his family. Don't fool me into believing that there is nothing happening. Please, Sarah, just tell me." Not many were privy to this matter, and Sarah was one of them. She hesitated, but in the end had to reveal the truth to Daisy, who was insistent in her quest for answers. Sarah told Daisy about the whole situation with Aled and the financial trouble he was causing the company by just disappearing with a heavy load of cash. Daisy was surprised, to say the least, and said, "Isn't that Aled Roman's cousin? How could he do such a thing?" "You can't tell when someone will betray you," Sarah sighed. "People do anything for money. But I never thought Aled was that kind of person." Daisy, who had a good impression of Aled before all of this had happened, shook her head and said, "I never saw it coming either." Sarah smiled and explained, "It's hard to judge someone's character. Even the boss and John didn't see through his facade. He hid his secrets well. Worry creased Daisy's brow as she asked, "What if we can't recover the money?" Sarah reassured her, leading her to a chair. "It's not your concern. The boss and John are handling it. Don't worry, they will manage somehow." Daisy was not convinced and pressed even more. But what if they can't? That would be bad, Sarah admitted. Millers are quite persistent, and now the inspection team is also involved. Government projects are complicated in and of themselves. Daisy sat thoughtfully while Sarah focused on checking the data related to the project on the computer. After a while, Daisy asked to borrow Sarah's phone, saying she needed to make a call. Sarah handed it over as she saw Daisy walk to the door with an air of mystery, but she refrained from eavesdropping. Daisy returned a few moments later and gave her phone back. She looked up at Sarah and told her, "I have to urgently go somewhere. Can you arrange it?" Sarah shook her head, concerned at this sudden request. Roman had entrusted her with keeping an eye on Daisy. It would be a problem if she wasn't there when the boss returned. Sarah shook her head and said, "Daisy, you know I can't do that." Boss would be very angry. Daisy was having none of it as she pleaded with Sarah, explaining that she had a pressing matter. Sarah asked her about the reason, but Daisy was adamant about not sharing it. Her anxiety was palpable, and Sarah finally relented. She asked Matt to accompany Daisy, ensuring her safe return. Indeed, Daisy couldn't confide in Sarah about it. She had a burning desire to get Roman out of this mess. After thinking for a while, her art exhibition crossed her mind. Her mind went back to the day she sold a few paintings. She knew there was money to be had. Matthew had said that she could call him if she had to discuss anything regarding the art collection. At first, Daisy considered discussing money matters over the phone, but it felt inappropriate. Meeting face-to-face seemed more suitable, so she called Matthew up and asked him if he could meet her. As expected, Matthew told her to come to the Arthur's Art Gallery where she was now headed. Matt drove her to the gallery, wanting to accompany her all the way. Daisy assured him she'd be out shortly and asked him to wait in the car. Matt didn't dare defy her instructions and chose to stay in the car. Daisy entered the gallery where the staff escorted her to Arthur's office. Upon opening the door, she found Arthur and Matthew engrossed in a conversation over coffee. Their faces lit up upon seeing her. Arthur poured a cup of coffee for her and said, "Give this new concoction a try. My friend just bought it from Colombia." Daisy smiled after taking a sip and admitted, "I'm not a connoisseur, but it tastes amazing." Arthur nodded with a grin and said, "Daisy, what can I do for you?" Asking for money was always an awkward task, and Daisy felt hesitant before speaking. Matthew saw her discomfort and chimed in, "Daisy, before you talk, Boss Arthur has something to discuss with you as well." "That's right," Arthur added. "Your last exhibition was a tremendous success. You might not know yet, but all the paintings were sold that day. I've organized numerous exhibitions, and this is the first time every painting has sold out on the opening day. You have incredible potential." "Really?" Daisy was genuinely surprised to hear it. When Roman had abruptly taken her away, only a few paintings were sold. The fact that they had all sold out was unexpected. Her excitement alleviated her apprehension as she inquired, "So, how much money can I expect?" "A substantial amount," Arthur confirmed. "As per our agreement, after deducting my share, you'll receive $700,000. But considering your outstanding performance, I'd like to reward you with $1 million. Daisy couldn't believe her ears. $1 million? Absolutely. The primary reason is that as a newcomer, you were cautious with your pricing. If you had known it would be this popular, you could have easily increased the price and it would have been no problem," Arthur explained. Daisy shook her head, saying, "That's all right. No matter how high it could have been, I'd still feel self-conscious." Matthew grinned and suggested, "Daisy, after making this much money, you should give us a treat." "All right, no problem," Daisy replied, nervously fiddling with her fingers. "Arthur, when can I have the money?" "You can have it whenever you wish," Arthur assured her. "In that case," Daisy said with unease, "could you give it to me now? Matthew was somewhat taken aback. Daisy, are you in a hurry for the money? Daisy nodded, responding, yes. This revelation surprised Matthew. He wondered if Daisy had been in financial straits while with Roman. Perhaps she wanted to be financially independent. When he'd first met Daisy, he'd assumed that she was Roman's side piece, but as time passed, he realized that she was genuinely talented and straightforward, which he appreciated. That's why he'd put in the effort to connect with her about the art exhibition. Arthur broke his chain of thought when he said, I will transfer the amount to your bank in an hour. Don't worry about it. Daisy couldn't be more glad to hear him say that, and left the gallery thanking them once again for the favor. In Adam's office, only two things remained securely locked, a built-in wall safe and the left side bottom drawer of the desk. Few people entered his office, and no one dared to venture in search of secrets. Tony, however, couldn't contain his curiosity about the locked drawer. He always asked if it held any hidden mysteries, but Adam merely smiled at his curiosity and kept his silence. With time, Tony's inquiries had dwindled. Adam retrieved a key from the small box in the middle drawer. After a moment's hesitation, he unlocked the bottom drawer and pulled out a hefty stack of documents, placing them on the desk. The stack was thick and neatly divided with paper clips. Adam carefully laid out the information, taking one sheet. It was clear from the label that it had the details of Spencer's shareholders. He flipped to the first page that had Roman's information, covering every aspect of his life. It delved into significant events that had transpired during his years as president of Spencer Corporation, leaving nothing to the imagination. The list was meticulously organized and sorted by Spencer's shareholdings. Regardless of the number of shares they owned, each individual had a comprehensive dossier. Adam methodically flipped through page after page before the door of his cabin abruptly swung open. Without missing a beat, Adam instinctively hid the document he held and shielded it on the table. He already knew who the intruder was, the only person who could dare to enter without knocking, Tony. In truth, it didn't matter today. It didn't matter if he found out. Adam methodically organized the papers and folded the documents. Tony, with determination, strode up to him, asking, "Did you have someone send a letter of contact discontinuation to the Spencers?" Adam looked at him and replied as if the memory had just resurfaced. "You mean that letter?" "Yes, I arranged for it to be sent. You assured me 2 days ago that you'd give them a few days' grace and try to understand their situation." "Why did you send the letter without having a word with me?" "I had no other option," Adam conceded with a helpless shrug. "The oversight team was calling incessantly and I couldn't bear it any longer. The payment delay had become unbearable. I suggested we should discuss it privately first, but you refused, and now a letter has been dispatched to them." "What will Roman think?" "What do you expect me to do?" Adam retorted. "They should have anticipated this. After all, we're in business. We've been exceptionally patient, letting them delay until now. Even the oversight team inquired about it. I had no choice but to press for payment." "But you should have talked to me beforehand." Tony remained indignant. "John called me to inquire about it, and I was completely in the dark about the situation." "Don't you think they should have known this would happen?" Adam raised an eyebrow at him and said, "Don't forget you're the general manager of Miller's. Just because you have a good rapport with John doesn't mean you can mix professional and personal matters, Tony." Tony couldn't ignore the business aspect of it, but he felt a sense of unease. Adam hadn't uttered a word to him about such an important matter, clearly not taking his role as CEO seriously. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed the stack of information on the table with the top sheet reading Spencer's balance sheet. He was surprised, to say the least, and asked Adam, "Why do you have Spencer's balance sheet?" Adam wasn't surprised when Tony questioned him about Spencer's documents. He offered a knowing smile to his friend and said, "You know, it's said that only by knowing the enemy can you win every battle. You should know that, Tony." Tony skimmed through the documents and rapidly flipped to the end, discovering the reversed details of Spencer's shareholders before looking at it in astonishment. He then asked Adam, "What's your deal here? Are you trying to dismantle the company or harm Roman?" Adam had no intention of concealing his motives. He casually reclined in his chair and asked, "Is there really a difference? For all these years you've claimed to be against Roman, yet you've never taken any action against him. You obviously don't like him, but you helped him with Daisy. And now you want to actively harm him. Why have you made it so complicated?" Tony halted abruptly, seemingly unable to believe it. "That letter? You've already done something, haven't you?" Adam smiled as he strolled over to the wine cabinet and poured 2 glasses of red wine. He handed one to Tony and clinked glasses lightly, saying, "Why don't you just watch and wish me luck?" Tony remained in shock, questioning, "Why, Adam? Why have you done this?" "There's no particular reason," Adam replied calmly. "I simply don't like him, and I've wanted to make a move against him for a long time. After Iris's return, the suppressed dislike I had for him is maybe resurfacing a little. It's not your business, though." Tony did not get his agenda and asked, "Why now?" "Because the right opportunity has presented itself," Adam explained. "When the timing is perfect, everything falls into place naturally." Tony looked at Adam and said, "Is it because of Iris?" "But Roman has already proposed to Daisy." Adam cut him off coldly. "Tony, why do you always bring up that woman?" "Let me say it for the last time. I have no interest in her. I merely despise her, nothing more. I'm a businessman, and my sole focus is on maximizing profits and expanding Miller's business empire. It's been my life's pursuit. There's no other motive. Am I clear?" Tony shook his head, stating, "I can't believe it." Adam snorted. "Believe it or not, there is nothing you can do about it." Tony fell silent for a moment and then inquired, "Is Aled your pawn too?" Adam didn't hide the truth, replying, "It was a coincidence. The feud between him and Roman's family doesn't concern me. He was looking for revenge, and I gained from it. It was a matter of mutual cooperation." Tony shook his head and said, "Even though you're powerful, Roman is no pushover. It won't be easy to defeat him." Adam turned to him, saying, "Don't fret over it. I never engage in a battle I'm not sure of." Tony wanted to fully understand the extent of Adam's ploy and asked, "What if the Andersons come to his aid?" "He's broken up with Iris." "Can the Anderson family truly help him?" Adam retorted with confidence. "Besides, Frank is a shareholder of the Miller family. When it comes to a showdown between the Millers and the Spencers, whose side do you think he'll choose?" Tony got up from his seat and declared, "I won't support you in whatever you are planning to do to him." "I know." Adam smiled slightly. "As expected, Tony. You're skilled in many things, but your heart's too kind. I'm aware of your friendship with John, but I'm dealing with the Spencer family. You don't have to assist me. Just don't go against me. Both John and I are your friends, aren't we?" Tony gazed at him silently, finding Adam oddly different at this moment. He had always viewed him as somewhat naive, a business genius, but socially inept. He was arrogant, aloof, and spoiled. However, in this instance, Adam resembled a cunning hunter who had meticulously studied his prey for years and set up an intricate trap without anyone realizing it. Tony sipped his red wine and came to terms with the reality that the Millers were about to engage in a heated conflict with the Spencer family. A hint of a smile tugged at the corner of Adam's mouth as he replied, "Roman is more astute than you think. I believe he's already having suspicions about me." Adam's hunch was on point. Even though he hadn't initiated any formal actions yet, Roman had indeed started to question him. After the meeting, Roman requested John to accompany him back to his office. Despite Roman's composed demeanor during the meeting, John sensed that something was amiss. Anxious, he inquired as they walked along the road, "Roman, what's wrong? Did you get the money from Mr. Spencer?" "He doesn't have it anymore," Roman curtly replied. "What do you mean?" John's distress deepened. You mentioned it was just a capital verification before it would be returned. Roman sighed. It's my fault as well. I didn't want to go home and endure their nagging at the time, so I didn't ask Father about the money. I allowed Aled to take advantage of the situation, and he did. He convinced my father to loan him that money. Is there any evidence of his involvement? John's eyes widened in astonishment. So, he did it intentionally. He not only took the money, but created trouble for the Spencers? That was indeed what he had planned to do, Roman said, and opened the door to the secretary's room. Upon seeing that only Sarah was present, he instantly furrowed his brow, asking, "Where is Daisy?" Sarah replied hastily, "She mentioned that she was going out and would return shortly. I asked Matt to accompany her. She'll be safe." Knowing that Matt was with her, Roman felt reassured. He asked Sarah to bring 2 cups of coffee to his cabin as he and John entered the office. Once inside, John inquired, "What should we do now? If we can't secure the funds, we'll be in a precarious position. Government projects are already complex, and the province manages them." Roman seated himself, extracted his cigarette case, and tossed one to John. Roman exhaled a plume of smoke, slowly saying, "Over the years, we and the Millers have been rivals, but it was typically a healthy competition. Despite our rivalry, there were always certain boundaries. However, this time, Adam evidently aimed to catch us off guard. Think about it. We've consistently collaborated successfully on the Ecological Park project. However, when this incident occurred, he didn't forewarn us and sent us a letter along with the oversight team." John looked at him and asked, "What do you think his ultimate goal is?" Roman instead asked, "Was there anything unusual on the stock market today?" "Likely not," John replied. "I've instructed the finance department to monitor it closely and report any anomalies immediately." Roman shook his head and said, "What Adam excels at is financial warfare. We must always be on guard." John appeared slightly surprised. "So you're suggesting that Adam wants to wage war against us? Without any apparent reason, why?" "You'd have to ask him that." Roman flicked the ashes from his cigarette. "He genuinely caught me off guard this time. If Aled is his pawn, he must have been plotting this for quite a while." "Don't worry," John reassured him. "Let's take action. Currently, our top priority is to secure some funds. If that doesn't work, I'll ask my brother to help with the situation." Roman said, "All right, you can check with him first, and I'll reach out to a few banks I have connections with to see if we can get a loan." "All right." John rose from his seat and he said, "Let's not delay any further and get on to it." At that moment, the door creaked open and Daisy's head peered inside. A radiant smile instantly graced Roman's face as he waved her in, saying, "Come here. You were gone for so long." Daisy hesitated briefly, replying, "You guys seem busy. I'll come back later." John, with a welcoming smile, assured her, "No need to wait. We're already done discussing. You can join us." Daisy walked in slowly, her hands concealed behind her. Daisy simply smiled as she saw John exiting and swiftly made her way to Roman. Roman, who was equally intrigued, questioned her, "What's in your hand?" Daisy handed him an envelope as if it held a precious secret, saying, "Open it and see for yourself." Roman opened it and found $1 million check inside. He looked up at Daisy astonished and asked, "Where did you get all this money?" Daisy replied with pride, "Arthur gave it to me from the proceeds of selling the paintings." Suddenly, realization dawned on Roman. He placed the envelope on the table, embraced Daisy, and said, "Seems like Matthew's been an excellent teacher. We can go to the bank later and deposit it. Might also get you a cell phone since we are back already." Daisy replied, "I want to cash it out. It's actually for you." Roman felt a rush of emotions in him, warmth, a touch of bitterness, and a sweetness that left him speechless. He held her close and said, "Daisy, thank you. The company is going through some tough times, but I'll manage. You earned this money. Keep it for yourself or spend it as you like." Daisy, a bit disappointed at his reply, asked, "You don't want it?"
Roman chuckled and said, "When you become a renowned painter and make lots of money, then you can give it to me, all right?" Daisy protested. "That's too far in the future. I want to help you now." Roman reassured her. "As long as you love me, you're already helping. I'll be swamped with work for a few days, so if you feel lonely, go hang out with Sarah or Nina." Daisy responded, "I'm used to being alone."
"I can stay home for days. I'll save the money, and if you ever need it, just take it." Sitting up, Daisy took the envelope back and was about to leave when Roman noticed her empty finger and asked her, "Daisy, where's your ring?" Daisy looked at her hand and admitted, "I left it at home. Sarah said it was really expensive, so I was afraid of losing it." Roman replied with a mix of amusement and annoyance in his tone. "No matter how valuable it is, it loses its worth if you don't wear it. It's an engagement ring, so you can't take it off. Put it on when you get back. Understand?" Daisy hesitated as she said, "But what if I lose it? The diamond is so big and it's heavy. I'm afraid I'll drop it." Roman's annoyance flared as he asked, "Why do you always think about losing it? Don't you want to marry me anymore?" Daisy quickly reassured him, "Of course, I only want to marry you." Roman, still a bit annoyed, playfully kissed Daisy's cheek, saying, "That's more like it." Around noon, Roman treated Daisy to a meal and then accompanied her to the bank to deposit the money. He also surprised her with a new mobile phone, keeping her old number. Once they inserted the SIM card, her phone received a series of text messages. They were all from Kevin. Daisy realized she had left him without explanation during the art exhibition and hadn't contacted him since returning from Hawaii. In the presence of Roman, she hesitated to call Kevin. When she got a chance to slip away, she dialed Kevin's number in the corridor. As soon as the call was answered, Kevin unleashed his frustration on her. "Daisy, what's going on with you? Where have you been these past few days? Your phone has been off. You nearly gave me a heart attack." Daisy calmly listened to his outburst and then spoke softly. "Kevin, I'm sorry for causing you worry. There's a lot to explain. Let's meet and talk about it." "Tomorrow, then," Kevin replied, still a bit miffed. "I need to see for myself that you're okay. Roman didn't harm you, did he?" Daisy chuckled at his absurd question and said, "What could he do to me? He's always been good to me." "Great, we are laughing about it," Kevin grumbled. Daisy wanted to explain the situation to him, but knew that it might take too long and Roman could come looking for her any moment, so she said, "Let's discuss it when we meet tomorrow. I'll hang up now. Let's meet for lunch at the restaurant near my apartment." After Kevin agreed, Daisy ended the call and hurried back to the room. As expected, Roman had grown impatient and asked, "What took you so long?" Daisy smiled, took his arm, and replied, "Let's go." Roman didn't press for details and led her to the car. In the afternoon, a strange stir gripped the stock market that the Spencer's financial department elites finally caught on. Roman himself held a vigil in the finance department, keenly aware of Adam's tactics and influence. The last time Adam had tangled with a Seattle-based company, his strikes were merciless and swift, delivering a fatal blow that left no room for resistance. Regrettably, that company couldn't bounce back. This time, Adam's assault on the Spencer Corporation was brutal and swift. He'd dispatched a challenge letter just yesterday, and today it was official. Adam was evidently well prepared, wielding both a binding contract and making strategic moves in the stock market to get a hand on the company's majority shares. He was a financial genius, and when he unleashed his prowess, he held nothing back. Roman's gaze remained fixed on the expansive computer screen. In the blink of an eye, Spencer's stocks plummeted, and though his team put up a fight, they were outmatched. It was akin to a cat hunting a wily mouse, seizing every unexpected chance. Retail investors joined the frenzy, and the situation spiraled beyond control. Roman's countenance grew somber as he ordered his people to cease the battle, to preserve their resources. Money was their most pressing need right now, and it was Adam's Achilles heel as well. Engaging in a financial brawl with the Millers was a surefire path to defeat. Roman, however, did wonder why Adam had chosen this moment to strike and what his ultimate goal might be. Over the years, he'd maintained a wary eye on Adam, yet he'd never seen him act so decisively before. Roman had gradually let his guard down, just as he had with Aled, leading to the predicament they faced today. But the war had only just commenced, and the outcome remained uncertain. Within the company, tension thickened in the air, heralding an impending storm, and the employees wore solemn expressions. The market closed at 3 o'clock with Spencer's stock down by 8 points. Fortunately, it hadn't hit the limit, though Roman was aware that Adam had the capability to drive it there, but had not done so. John returned, his face devoid of joy, signaling a grim start. True to expectation, John was a bit disheartened as he uttered, "Roman, I didn't expect Cole to fight this hard. I got into an argument with him, and it's clear that he wants no involvement in this." Roman offered a reassuring pat on John's shoulder and said, "It's all business. I understand." "What's our plan, then?" John inquired. "If Miller sues us for a breach of contract, the financial hit will be enormous." "He'll take that step," Roman replied, gazing out of the window. "This has been in the works for a long time, meticulously planned at every turn. He'll methodically tighten the noose, leaving us no escape and ultimately leading to our downfall." John wore a puzzled expression as he asked, "We don't have much animosity with him, do we? What's his endgame?" Roman turned his gaze to the gloomy sky outside, his eyes deep with contemplation. After a moment, he responded, "You'll have to ask him that." John looked at him and asked, "What's our next move, then?" "I've arranged a dinner with the president of the People's Bank for tonight, and you'll join me," Roman informed John. "Right now, our best hope is with the bank." Roman paused and then added, "Let Sarah take Daisy to your house for dinner tonight to keep Nina company." John raised an eyebrow. "She's already here and you're concerned about my wife?" "I'm worried about Daisy being alone at home," Roman clarified. "I'll pick her up at your house after the meeting. Adam's target is you, not her, so why worry?" John pointed out, "But it's okay to have her at my house. Nina gets lonely alone." Roman understood John's logic. While Adam might be cunning, he wouldn't target a girl. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that, beyond the current crisis, something even more sinister loomed. The following day, after Roman had left for work, Daisy got up at noon and headed to a restaurant to meet Kevin. She arrived on time, but Kevin was already there, waiting for her. He met her calmly and said, "Feel free to order whatever you like." Daisy ordered a bowl of noodles. Observing Kevin silently waiting for the food with an air of discontent, she sensed his anger and tried to explain, "Kevin, you have to listen to me. It's not what you think. You've misunderstood. Roman's not that kind of person." "All right," Kevin responded, his voice subdued. Daisy had no choice but to hold back the words on her tongue. This was the first time Kevin had been so angry with her, and she felt a rising panic, uncertain about what to do, so she sat in silence. Their noodles arrived, a large bowl heaped with peanuts and green onions. Daisy picked up a chopstick and scooped some noodles into her bowl, offering him a placating smile. "Thanks for lunch, Kevin." Kevin, however, didn't appreciate Daisy taking the situation so lightly and retorted angrily, "Have you grown used to being so complacent with Roman and not having a say of your own?" Daisy considered arguing, but seeing the fury in Kevin's eyes, decided against it. She'd always been clumsy with her words, and she feared that saying the wrong thing would only stoke Kevin's anger. Kevin had witnessed Daisy's heartache when Roman was torn between her and Iris. Finally, Daisy had gathered the resolve to break up with Roman and move out. But now, just a few days later, she mended their relationship, and once again, they were back together. It left him feeling uneasy. Seeing Daisy bowing her head in guilt, Kevin couldn't help but soften his expression a bit. "Tell me, what are your plans?" Daisy looked up at him cautiously and replied,
I want to marry him. Are you out of your mind? Kevin exclaimed. You want to marry him now? Don't think that just because he proposed, you'll have a marriage. Those are tricks used by the wealthy, Daisy. Why won't you listen? Daisy put down her cutlery and said, But I love him and he loves me too. Why can't we be together? You know why you two can't be together, Kevin said, a look of disdain on his face. Daisy, please wake up. Why are you being so foolish? A few sweet words from him and you go running back. Don't forget the pain he gave you. I'm telling you, if you don't heed my advice, you'll end up suffering even more than you did already. Daisy understood Kevin's concerns, but how could she leave Roman? Each time she had walked away, regardless of how infuriated or hurt he might be, he always managed to bring her back. Her childhood had been marked by contempt and solitude. She'd often gone without enough food or proper clothing, enduring life in a drafty, dilapidated home. Yet now, no one could be happier than her because she had Roman. He had constructed a perfect world for her, shielding her from life's hardships and ensuring she lived a secure and comfortable existence. Most importantly, he loved her more than anything in the world, just as she loved him. Therefore, this time, she had resolved not to leave him again. Even if the world crumbled around them, she would stand by his side. Kevin stole several glances at her and finally couldn't resist extending his hand to tidy her hair. Daisy appeared somewhat startled, shrinking back and looking up at him. Kevin forced an unnatural smile and said, Your hair is all messed up. Daisy sighed, raising her hand to fix her hair once more, and whispered, Kevin, I know you're doing this for my own good, but I can't imagine my life without him. I know he'll always treat me well. If, in the future, she bit her lip, hesitating, if he doesn't want me anymore in the future, it will be okay with me. Kevin fell silent, his gaze fixed on a stain on the table. While Daisy and Kevin had this difficult conversation, Roman was overseeing the battle in the financial department. Given that his adversary was Adam, he couldn't afford to be anything less than vigilant. The morning market had seen a slight rise, but it was quickly suppressed. John entered the room, asking in a hushed tone, How's it going today? Roman mused. Adam truly deserves the title of a genius trader. His brilliance is so extraordinary that it's hard to decipher his intentions. Don't worry, John reassured. This is just the beginning. If we analyze his patterns, we can stay ahead of his intentions. Even if he aims to gain an edge in the stock market, it won't disrupt our plans a lot. Underestimating the enemy, Roman remarked. He's had this plan in motion for a while, which means he's confident in his victory. We'll seize the moment and use it to our advantage. Just as they were discussing this, Roman's phone rang and it was Sarah on the line. He furrowed his brow as he listened to her and said, Did she mention why she is here? Roman pondered for a moment and said, All right, I'll be there soon. John inquired, Who's in your office? Iris, Roman revealed. John was taken aback. Why is she showing up now? Your proposal to Daisy was in the headlines and everyone knows about it. Plus, you already know what she did. That's precisely why I need to meet with her and clarify things, to avoid future complications, Roman explained, patting John on the shoulder. You keep an eye here and inform me if anything comes up. Back at the office, Iris took a seat across from Sarah, engrossed in her mobile phone. When the door opened, she looked up, her gaze meeting Roman's. A faint smile crossed her lips. It's not easy to see you now. Roman, without a glance at her, spoke to Sarah. A cup of tea and a cup of coffee, please. He then led the way into his office. Iris followed him in, and Roman gestured for her to sit. She sank into the sofa, a sigh escaping her. Roman, when did we become so distant? I never imagined we'd end up like this. Iris, we didn't need to drift apart like this. Roman locked eyes with her. It was your choices that led to this. We could have been friends if not for...
He trailed off. What's wrong with being friends now? Iris suddenly laughed. Now that there are new people, you're discarding the old ones? Roman didn't bother to comment on it and asked, Iris, let's not play games. Why did you come to see me today? Iris began, but her words halted as Sarah entered the room. She waited for Sarah to leave before continuing, Roman, I came for a reason. Iris got an envelope from her bag and handed it to him, saying, You need to face what happened that night between us. Roman raised an eyebrow, a cold, unwavering stare. Iris felt a twinge of guilt, but maintained her resolve. What, afraid to open it? I know what's inside, Roman said, not bothering to open the envelope, tossing it onto the coffee table. Why don't you take a look then? Iris taunted. I know, Roman replied, leaning back on the sofa, his demeanor relaxed. Iris, rarely seeing him like this, was momentarily stunned. You know? Yes, Roman confirmed. Since you know, you owe me an explanation, Iris said bluntly, laying her cards on the table. If you won't marry me, I'll reveal these photos. Imagine what my family would do if they saw them. Roman retrieved his cigarette case, lit one, and took a drag. After a pause, he looked at Iris and said, Iris, you've changed beyond recognition. People change, Iris retorted. Let's stick to the point, Roman. Yeah, we discussed it before, but I didn't expect this, Roman said, flicking ash from his cigarette. He observed the girl opposite him, the same, yet different. Under his gaze, Iris lowered her eyes, gently stirring her coffee, and spoke softly. Roman, if you knew what I've been through, you wouldn't be surprised by the changes in me. The Iris from before is gone, and the Iris is smarter and stronger. You should be happy for me. You're mistaken, Iris. Roman exhaled a puff of smoke slowly. I know you've suffered, but you can't hurt others just because you've been hurt. I know someone who has endured hardship from a young age, surrounded by cynicism, yet she remained true to her kind nature, never holding grudges. She saw the world's beauty, not its darkness. Fine, Iris smiled coldly. I know who you're talking about, Daisy, right? Now you adore Daisy, so everything she does is commendable. Roman, let's not dwell on the past. Just tell me, are you going to marry me or not? No, Roman replied calmly, his gaze shifting to the envelope. Do as you wish with the photos. Fine, don't regret it later. Iris snatched the envelope and left the room, frustration evident in her every step. When Iris stepped into the elevator, her chest burned with anger and her eyes blazed with fury. Roman had dared to compare Daisy to her, who was no more than a mere maid. She tightly clutched her bag as her fingers trembled from the rage. As she got into her car, her phone rang. For a moment, she thought it was Roman, so she hesitated before answering. To her surprise, it was Finn asking her to come to their company. Iris felt surprised since Finn rarely called her to the office. He usually discussed matters at home. She wondered about this sudden request to visit the company now. Finn hung up the phone and walked to the window. The morning sunshine had given way to gloomy skies. He thought to himself, it's going to rain. No sooner had the thought crossed his mind than a lavender light flashed in the distance, accompanied by a faint rumble of thunder. Raindrops left a few watermarks on the window glass. Even though he anticipated the rain, it still felt sudden. Roman must have felt the same, caught off guard in the same way. A noise at the door interrupted his thoughts. Turning around, he saw Iris entering as she complained, This darn weather, it's raining again. It looks like it will never end. Finn replied, You have a car, so does the rain really matter? Sitting on the sofa, Iris said, It affects my mood. Finn studied her for a moment and asked, What's wrong with you? Who made you look so upset? No one, Iris sighed. Finn, why did you call me here? Finn didn't immediately answer. Instead, he pressed the intercom to instruct his secretary to bring tea. Iris interjected, I don't want tea, I prefer coffee. Finn changed his order and asked for a cup of coffee when Iris added, Actually, I just had a coffee. You don't have to get it for me.
Who were you having coffee with?
Finn inquired. Iris, still impatient to know why he had called her here, replied, Brother, do you have something important to discuss? I'm really busy. Finn ignored her words and persisted in his question. Stop ignoring my question. Tell me, who were you having coffee with? Who else but Roman? Iris retorted with frustration. Let's not talk about him, though. He is already upset with me.
What's going on with you?
Finn looked at Iris and asked,
Why is he upset with you?
Tell me and I'll help you with it. Forget it. I can handle it on my own, Iris exclaimed, stamping her feet in anxiety. If you don't want to tell me what's bothering you, I will leave right now. Stop wasting my time. Finn looked at her without a smile and asked, What's the hurry? Are you still stuck with the idea of wanting to marry Roman? Iris was taken aback and was about to answer him back when her secretary arrived with the coffee. She had to wait until the secretary left before saying, Finn, why are you asking me this? Do you still consider it? Finn probed once again. Of course I do, Iris replied with a hint of frustration. He may not want to marry me, but I still have to marry him. Think it through. Finn sighed as he listened to his sister's absurd wish and said, I told you long ago that marrying Roman might not lead to your own happiness. He loves Daisy now, not you. Do you think you'll be happy if your man is in love with someone else? I understand everything you are saying, Iris said as she looked at him. Even if Roman doesn't love me anymore, we have a history together. No matter what happens, he'll always take care of me. I'm not 20 anymore. I don't have the time or energy to start over with someone else. You know my situation very well, Finn. I just want some stability in my life. Among all the men I know, only Roman will truly give me that, even if he doesn't love me anymore. The rain suddenly intensified, battering the window glass like a cascade of stones. Iris turned to look at the weather and closed the curtains. Finn remained silent for a while and then asked, What if I don't agree to your wish? Even if you are not on the same page as me, I still want to marry Roman, Iris declared as she looked at Finn. She opened her small bag and placed an envelope containing a photo on the table and said, If you want to know what's going on between us, take a look for yourself. Finn opened the envelope with suspicion, and his expression changed instantly when he looked at the seemingly intimate pictures of Iris and Roman. When did this happen? Iris looked at the floor and said, It was during the time when Daisy left and he was feeling very lonely. He came to me for dinner and then one thing led to another. Finn was so angry that he stood up and slammed the photo on the table. I'm going to find him and make him pay for this. He can't just use you when he needs to and then discard you like you mean nothing. Finn. Iris hurriedly stopped him. Forget it. I've already tried to make him realize that, but it's of no use. We need to handle this situation on our own. What do you mean it's of no use? Finn grew even angrier at Iris's comment. What does Roman think of our family? Iris used all her strength to pull Finn back into his seat. Brother, please hear me out. Things aren't as they seem. He had too much to drink that night. Besides, Roman and I are ancient history now. Daisy has been with him for a long time. If we try to convince him, we will just invite more problems. We'll have to be more careful about this situation. Trust me, I can handle it. Finn breathed heavily as he said, Originally, I didn't even plan to meddle in this. But now, Roman must man the hell up and agree to marry you. Iris's eyes lit up. Finn, do you have something in mind? Finn snorted. Don't worry, we don't need to do anything. Roman's getting chased and pummeled by Adam as we speak. If this keeps up, he'll lose his company. Unbelievable. I'd rather have given up on Daisy. Iris was shocked to hear this and said, Now Adam's going after the Spencers? Why? Finn sneered. It's a long story. It started yesterday afternoon. I've been tracking their companies closely. Word is Roman's cousin Alid swiped a hefty sum and disappeared.
Coincidentally, it hit a snag in the provincial government's projects. Now, all eyes are on Roman, and if Adam strikes now, it will be hard for him not to win. Iris said with anger.
Adam, that scoundrel, will definitely use this opportunity. Finn casually replied. This might be more than some self-presented opportunity. Alid's mess may have nothing to do with him. Do you think it was Adam's fault that Alid got his hands on that money? Iris had some knowledge of what went down before. Wasn't it because of Roman's father that Alid resented the family? Finn took a sip of coffee as he revealed, Alid wouldn't have had such an easy time without some help behind the scenes. Besides, there was a hiccup with the funds for the ecological park. We submitted a bid too, and we were no weaker than the Spencers, but they were the ones who got it. Adam must have pulled some strings. Back then, I wondered why he wanted to assist Roman. It turns out he had this plan all along. I always thought Roman was the sharper one, but it's Adam who's playing the long game. I've underestimated him all these years. Iris was startled by this revelation. Why was Adam targeting Roman? What was he trying to achieve with such a deceitful move? But what she truly wanted to know was what Finn would do to ensure Roman married her. Finn noticed her uncertainty and smiled. Making Roman bend to our will won't be too difficult now. If he's willing to marry you, I'll support him in making that commitment. If that's the plan, Iris cradled her coffee cup. Then I'd like to see it in action soon, Finn said. Don't worry, this is just the beginning. It won't be long before the old folks on Spencer's board of directors catch wind of it. They'll put pressure on him, and so will his parents. The Millers hold considerable wealth and influence, and nobody wants to cross them. Roman will be surrounded by adversaries, and if I step in at that moment, we will get what we want. Finn, you're amazing! Iris's excitement bubbled up since that was all she cared about, marrying Roman. Finn smiled wistfully. Iris, I'm doing this all for you. I hope I'm not making a mistake this time. I only want the best for you. I know, Iris replied softly. I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble. What are you talking about? You know I will always be there for you, right? Finn's gaze softened. You've endured so much already. I just want the rest of your life to be smoother and you to finally find your happiness. After a brief pause, he inquired, By the way, has Adam ever caused you any trouble? No, Iris snorted with contempt. I'm not one to trifle with him anymore, so why would he come and provoke me again? It's probably best that he didn't, Finn commented with deep emotion. Given what's happened recently, Adam is truly a menacing and unreliable person. Thankfully, you broke up with him on your own. I don't think I would have been able to digest the idea of someone like that for you. Iris chuckled. Her gloom had lifted, and she finally felt better. All this time, Roman and Adam were locked in a heated struggle, oblivious to all else. For days on end, Roman would leave home at the break of dawn and return late into the night. Even though he'd greet Daisy with a smile, her keen sensitivity detected something amiss. She caught on to the weariness etched onto Roman's face. Occasionally, he'd rush back early, joining her to watch TV, only to succumb to exhaustion on the couch. Daisy's unease grew, her mind riddled with worries about the company's affairs. She longed to ask him about what was going on, but dared not to. Roman no longer invited Daisy to accompany him to work, so a desire to surprise him tugged at Daisy's heart. She decided to visit his workplace, only to find Roman buried deep in files and meetings. She saw that Sarah, with whom she usually hung out if Roman was unavailable, was also swamped with work. She saw her typing away at her computer, so Daisy went up to her to ask her about what was actually going on. Daisy grew increasingly anxious, witnessing the tense scene in the office. She found Sarah briefly sipping tea and asked, Sarah, have you not secured the funds for the project yet? Sarah, who was surprised to see Daisy, answered, Hey, I almost didn't see you there. And about the funds, well, it's not just about the money anymore. Now the company is in a legal battle, and that makes the entire situation even trickier. Daisy was taken aback when she heard Sarah's response. A legal battle? Who are you fighting with? Sarah said softly. It's a financial skirmish, a war of money. It's quite complicated. Even if I explained, you might not fully grasp it. I see. Daisy admitted her lack of understanding, but wasn't afraid to ask for clarification. Sarah, who is the company we are fighting against? It's the Millers, Sarah explained. Do you remember Adam, the president of Miller Corp? He's the one, and he's determined to dismantle our company. He has quite the plan. Adam? Daisy obviously knew who he was, but was still perplexed. Why does he always clash with Roman? Sarah shook her head as she said, that no one knows about. All I know is that he's a formidable opponent. In just a few days, Spencer's stock has plummeted 3 times in a row. If this continues, it won't bode well for us. So what happens if we lose this legal thing? Daisy, who knew little about stocks,